The Reddit stock frenzy, a true mania, and the Wallstreet Bet subreddit garnering national attention, actually, after traders on the forum saying GameStop shares skyrocketing this week. The page went private for just under an hour last night with a message telling visitors that moderators were unable to effectively monitor the influx of content. The group was also banned from messaging platform Discord. That was for hate speech, which is, many have said, is prevalent, of course, on the Reddit forum as well. So the founder and former moderator of Wallstreet Bet saying that the block was not due to an SEC investigation and that the forum isn't shutting down. We see a lot of activity on it this morning, for instance. So take a look. That is GameStop. And over the past 5 trading days, the stock has soared close to 700%. This chart over the past 5 days up close to 800%, gained more than 100% yesterday. Shares were higher for most of the morning. They're pulling back a little bit pre-market. I did see that just about an hour ago they were higher by about 30%. Now I do see that they're down 8%. So still a lot of trading in this stock, likely because the trading platform Robinhood is seemingly no longer allowing users to buy GameStop stock on the app. So according to the user screenshots, you can close out your position in the stock, but you can't purchase additional shares. The same message coming up from Bed Bath & Beyond and AMC. So we're going to update you on this throughout the morning. But Julie had seen yesterday TD Ameritrade, another trading platform, come out and say there should be a 30-day ban on any trading in GameStop stock, simply because the fundamentals are so outlandishly detached from the current stock price.
You know, I'm looking on Twitter right now for reaction to the Robinhood news that they've halted trading on some of those stocks like GameStop. And across the board, people are just slamming Robinhood over this. So you have to think, is this going to make a difference? We know from our producer Taylor, who sent us a screenshot of the App Store, Robinhood right now is the #1 app that is being downloaded, followed by Reddit, which is fascinating because I think one of the unintended winners here is Reddit. And I remember when I first heard of this story, I'm like, wait, they're talking about this on Reddit? You know, and it's just a little confusing. But here we have Reddit as the second most popular app being downloaded right now. Robinhood's still the #1. This decision, though, to halt trading, quite controversial.
Quite controversial, and it does come as we've seen some of the screenshots. I mean, because this forum is public, we had seen users saying on it, this is not necessarily for us to profit in the end, but the people pumping this stock, some of them have said it's simply to send a message to the suits, the Wall Street elite, the billionaires. However you want to categorize them, some of the users have said this is simply to send a message, not to actually profit. And of course, doing it via a short squeeze, not necessarily in the broad market. So interesting just to highlight there. All right, let's break down some of the earnings, not to mention GameStop. That stock has officially opened for trade. We saw it as high as about 30% pre-market. Then it did turn lower, and those losses accelerated after Robinhood and other platforms did suspend trading. Now, Robinhood issuing a statement saying, quote, "We continuously monitor the markets and make changes where necessary. In light of recent volatility, we are restricting transactions for certain securities to position closing only." That means basically you can just sell that. It doesn't mean you can buy it anymore, but if you have a stake in it, you can basically sell it and take some profits if you want. That includes AMC, BlackBerry, Bed Bath & Beyond, Express, GameStop, Costs, and Nokia as well, among a few others there. So they also raised the margin requirements for some certain securities. And Interactive Brokers taking the step to limit some options trading in these shares as well, coming after TD Ameritrade did take that very unusual step to limit some trading in GameStop and AMC yesterday.
Yeah, day traders taking to Twitter to discuss the move and not liking it. One tweeting, quote, "How is this legal? The little guy starts making some money and then Wall Street blocks them from participating. It is the definition of corruption." So clearly this is controversial. Kristen, especially if you were trading on other platforms, you can trade GameStop.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, Jill, and I think AOC actually summed it up best. And her tweet that she put out late last night was actually getting a lot of pickup on the Wall Street Bets page and Reddit yesterday. And that was basically saying she kind of found it entertaining to see the little guy take on the big Wall Street whales, if you will. But either case, however you look at it, she still says it's basically a casino. I think a game might be a better word at this point, because we know, according to that Reddit message board, some traders are basically just trying to send the Wall Street hedge funds, billionaires, institutions a message that they do have a voice as well, and it's not so much about profits. So still so many questions circulating around this. Okay, well, for more on all of the action on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, we're joined by a trader here at the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Peter Tuchman, he's a trader for Quattro Securities. Peter, it's good to see you on the other side of this building and floor. So,
good to see you, Chris.
Always good to see you. Okay, so I saw you on the floor yesterday. I can't go down there because of the COVID restrictions, but explain what was happening. It was much louder than usual yesterday.
So look, you have to realize that there are still brokers on the floor. We do still, especially when stocks are trading and halting on a regular basis, limit up and limit down, and people are trying to voice their opinions or their order flow, you're going to hear voices, the old open outcry. So there was definitely a lot louder action than there was before. You're also seeing sort of an irrational exuberance. I mean, I just listened to your report with Jill. It's an ever-evolving story. It's kind of fascinating. I'm not sure about the motivation behind it, whether they're trying to stick it to the man or whether they're trying to have a voice, or whether they've just found a niche to really make money, right? In the old days, we saw the sort of the Carl Icahns against the Bill Ackermans one-on-one. One who was a shorty thought it was a pyramid scheme, and one who thought it was a good company, and they would go at each other one-on-one. This is sort of the herd or the riot version of that, right? If I knew what the motivation was, I would be able to have an opinion on it. I kind of think, for me as a trader here on the floor, anything that questions the public's interpretation or perception about the integrity of our market, when you see a stock go from 20 to 500 back to 300, my opinion is that the little guy is disadvantaged. We've heard about all the guys who bought it, at 50 and sold it at 300, and they're talking about making millions of dollars. I promise you, there are more people whose accounts have been blown up by trading these 5-6 names, which there's no edge. There's no probability that you're going to win more than lose. You may win once at the well, twice. I guarantee you by the third time, you're going to give it back. I'm a firm believer in trying to protect the small guy. Yeah. Yes, there are people who made a lot of money in this. You know what? I'm not a fan of picking that battle of screwing the big guy or whatnot. I want to protect the little guy. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of my opinion. It is pretty wild. This morning we're seeing it. Obviously, there's a lot. Go ahead, Chris.
So, Peter, I just want to break down exactly what is going on. So we do know that there are some guardrails in place, and that's why we saw, and we've been covering, certain stocks were halted, they resumed trading, they were halted again, they resumed trading, because once you rise or fall a certain percentage, there have been historical guardrails in place that a stock is then halted for a given period of time. But this is certainly unlike anything I think many millennials, many traders have seen in their lifetime, this specific action. And we're just learning this morning as some of these stocks that were up pre-market, like GameStop, for instance, and even Tootsie Roll, now down pretty notably because of these new restrictions that have been in place by Robinhood, TD Ameritrade yesterday, and Interactive brokers on the options front, that is, for that particular one. Do you think it is right that Robinhood made the move to restrict any further buying in these shares?
Okay, so look, what's obviously come in question is the legitimacy of what the Reddit Wall Street Bets guys are doing. What they're doing is identifying companies that have a huge short position, right? For people who don't understand that, people have made a bet that these companies are not doing well, and they want to make a bet that the stock is going to go down. That's a normal part of our auction market. There are buyers on fundamentals, buyers on technicals, sellers on people who have bought stock and want to get out, and short sellers are people who are making a bet due to whatever research they've done that stocks are overvalued and they think they should come down. These guys, this new young crew of gangsters in a way, and I don't say that in a bad way because I don't really know the motivation yet, have determined what companies, and there now is about 5 to 8 of them, where there's a huge short interest. What they've done is they've taken to social media to talk up the stock, right? Which means that you've got 40 million new young people, old people, new people, retail are in the market who are trading, who are listening to these chat rooms, and people who are regular, normal investors who start buying it up. The short guys, let's say you're short at $50 and the stock runs from 20 to 50, eventually your risk reward is going to make you cover your stock.
Right.
So what we're seeing is the use of social media, you got to buy it back. Well, what that does is it throws gas on that fire.
So let's
at some point, if you're short at 50,
you're doing such a good job explaining this. I want to show our viewers how these stocks are trading, right? So GameStop was up 30% pre-market. Last I checked a few seconds ago, it's now down 10%. If we can pull up this chart. AMC now down about 30%. It was higher pre-market as well. Tootsie Roll about flat. There's a look at AMC, currently down about 26%. So we do see with these restrictions in place at Robinhood, for instance, again, on Robinhood, you can only close your position. You can only sell your position in these stocks right now. That's essentially what it means. You can't buy further in these shares. GameStop currently down by about 5% after over the course of the past 5 days rising close to 700%. And Wallstreet Bets now has a community on Reddit of 4.6 million members, growing by 1 million just overnight in the past 12 hours. And I do want to show this full screen because when we talk about the motive, obviously people are very vocal on this platform, and we saw that the community was banned from Discord because of hate speech, but we might have some indications as to what some of the motives might be. Not necessarily for everyone per se, but some motives. So hopefully, Peter, you can hear me. It does show that for some of these, GameStop, more than just money, it's about sending a message. YOLO for all the recessions they caused, all the jobs and homes people have lost, for all the people that can't pay for college because minimum wage has stagnated while Wall Street gets rich, for all the retail traders they left holding the bag, and for all the times that they got bailed out with our tax money while we got nothing. GameStop isn't about greed. It's about taking back what is ours, what we've already paid for. So hopefully, Peter, you could hear at least one of those motivations, which does it does show that they're trying to send a message, at least some people, to the institutions, huh?
You know what? Look, that's still an evolving story. I haven't really figured that part of it out yet. Whether it's just a scheme that they've figured out, a way to make money, you never know what people's motivation is, on the other side of this. I think it's more important than to wonder about this limit up, limit down, stopping, and reopening is the fact that, look, we don't know the legitimacy of these trades yet in their look. Why is Robinhood and all these guys restricting people's trading in these stocks? First of all, they're not sure what the regulators are going to do down the road when they try and unwind this incredible, crazy phenomenon, right? And they don't want to be at risk. They also have people trading on margin. People are going to be losing millions of dollars. We've seen a number of hedge funds that bellied up 8-10 billion over the last week, who were the big short players who have gotten kind of really taken to the mat on this one. So is it a good thing? Look, it was a question, should we have restricted Mr. Trump's speech because it's hate speech? In my opinion, kind of. A lot of civil liberties people don't think it's a good idea. Do we restrict people now that the small guy's making money? I'm not clear who's making money, who's losing. Yes, there are some small guys making. Yes, there are some big guys getting decimated for sure. I think this is a protective mechanism. What's their motivation? Robinhood wants to protect themselves. TD Ameritrade and the other platforms are saying, look, are they afraid that down the road they're going to be held liable for this manipulation in market? No matter what you say is going on, it's a manipulation of the market. These stocks are not trading on any kind of valuations. It's an irrational euphoria in so many ways, right? So they're trying to protect themselves in lots of ways. The bottom line is we saw Robinhood early on in their inception were giving people margin who really weren't didn't deserve it in a lot of ways. And if people know that, that means if I put up $50,000 and they give me $250,000 buying power, I can end up, if I'm trading options or I'm trading stock or I'm short, I can lose more than I started with. And so their fear is that people, now that they're seeing this huge influx and making all this money, that they're if they give them margin or they're trading on margin and a stock goes from 60 to 500, back to 300, to 80, and up to 200, that people are, all accounts are being opened up. Yeah.
So perhaps, as you mentioned, obviously, right, several motives at play here. We're still waiting to see how the story unfolds. Maybe people did want to make a quick buck, and certainly with a 700% gain over the past 5 days in GameStop, perhaps they did. But I do want to ask about the risk of contagion. Currently, this is just limited to a few heavily shorted stocks. Not stocks necessarily that are part of the S&P 500 or have a large weight or are a big driver behind the overall movement of the major indexes. Is there a risk of contagion that this could impact overall market sentiment and drag down some of these major indexes?
You know what? Absolutely. It can drag them up and they can drag them down. The bottom line is that stocks trade on fundamental analysis, which is basically a lot of guys doing a lot of homework about what the earnings are going to be, guidance is going to be, and what the valuation of a company is. Then there's technical analysis, people who are working, running, trading off of charts, historic data, moving averages, relative strength index. Okay, the bottom line is if you've got 4 million people on Reddit and 40 million plus new retail investors in the market, and people are listening to this thing and they pick a stock that's not necessarily shorted, that they just want to talk about in a positive or negative manner, irrespective of what the truth is, then they can cause markets that are heavily weighted in indexes go up and down like crazy. They can make the instruments themselves go up, the SPY or some of the other ETFs. So it really puts the integrity of the market at risk. Now, and I'm not a guy who's
we have to see. Peter, I know you're going to be covering this on the floor of the stock exchange. We're both here at the stock exchange throughout the day. Hopefully we can check in a little bit later. That's Peter Tuchman, trader for Quattro Securities, right here at the New York Stock Exchange. And of course, he's got a new day trade